What if your little brother or sister was a victim of constant harassment and was living in fear? Would you stand by and watch, or would you do something about it? Bullying and cyberbullying. Should these acts be protected underneath the First Amendment? We have all heard of instances of bullying, some worse than others, and have heard of the tragic outcomes that some have. Today I'm going to show you why bullying should be prohibited and how it clearly should not be protected underneath the First Amendment. First, I will tell you why bullying is such an eminent problem, why it's still going on, and what we can do to prevent and stop it. We all know what bullying is. It has been around for ages, but bullying has been getting progressively worse and more serious, and there is now so many outlets for bullying, along with cyberbullying. According to StopCyberbullying.org, accessed April 10th, cyberbullying is when a child, preteen, or teen is tormented, threatened, harassed, humiliated, embarrassed, or otherwise targeted by another child, preteen, or teen using the internet, interactive and digital technologies, or mobile phones. The emergence of the digital age gives young people more and more ways to publicly abuse their peers, causing humiliation or intimidation, which usually leads to the worst cases of bullying. The act of bullying and cyberbullying causes children to not feel safe at school or in their homes, the two places children should in fact feel the most safe. Also, bullying is disruption from learning and education to everyone involved. According to ABC News, as of April 10th, every day 160,000 students stay home from school because of the fear of being bullied. And most importantly, constant bullying to a child can result in long-term negative effects, emotional destruction, and even suicide. In a science-direct journal on European psychiatry titled Victims of Bullying in Childhood and Suicide Attempts in Adulthood, published November 2011, it states that being the victim of bullying involves the experience of suffering defeat and humiliation that in turn could lead to entrapment, hopelessness, depression, and suicidal behavior. According to beatbully.org, access April 10th, around 20 children and adolescents kill themselves each year due to bullying. According to UK's 2006 National Bullying Survey, and instances have only increased. According to a new study from the Yale School of Medicine, suicide rates are continuing to grow among adolescents and have grown more than 50% in the past 30 years. Kids are dying because something needs to be done. Also, young people who are victimized by their peers are at increased risk, in turn, to victimize others at a later age and are reported to be at a high risk of adult suicide. It was also reported that 8-year-old boys who have been frequently bullied but have not experienced other forms of victimization were more likely than their non-bullied peers to have antisocial personality, substance abuse, and depressive and anxiety disorders 15 years later. Some may say that kids who grow up with depression or antisocial disorders would have anyways if bullied or not, and that it did not mean it caused one or the other. But though this may be true on some levels, there are too many instances of permanent damage from bullying to say that there is no effect given. In a journal titled Long-Term Effects of Bullying, conducted by Georgia State 2011, in a retrospective study of 853 college students, Newman and colleagues found that as the recalled frequency of bullying increased and the duration of bullying during childhood increased, symptoms of distress during adulthood also increased. Now we're going to talk about why bullying is still going on and public cases of it. In the case of the Rutgers freshman dorm mates, Darhan Ravi was accused of a hate crime and arrested on the charges of invasion of privacy, among other charges. Ravi had used a webcam to spy on his roommate Tyler Clementi having a sexual encounter with another male, and secretly streamed the live video. Tyler later jumped off the George Washington Bridge. If convicted, Ravi could serve to 10 years in prison. In 2010, a young 15-year-old girl named Phoebe Prince moved from Ireland and was a new girl at school. After a brief fling with an older football player, she was bullied relentlessly by a group of 9 teenagers until she hung herself January 14th. Even after her death, the bullies mocked her death and continued to say horrible things on her Facebook memorial page. The sweeping charges, which came after months of complaints that the bullies weren't being punished, included statutory rape, violation of civil rights with bodily injury, criminal harassment, and stalking. 6 teenagers were charged with felonies. But even still, community service and probation was the only punishment they received for 3 months of their torment to Prince, according to an article on Time Newsfeed by Kayla Weber, May 5, 2011. Another instance of tragic bullying is that of Sawyer Rosenstein. When he was 12, he was punched by a bully so hard that he was paralyzed and has almost died many times from this condition. Now, 6 years after the assault, the school board has finally agreed to a $4.2 million settlement to the Rosenstein family, because before the incident, the school was consistently notified of the constant bullying by Rosenstein himself. The settlement from the bully is undisclosed, according to MSNBC.com, April 19, 2011. Although there have been instances of public awareness of these bullying attacks, many go unnoticed and unpunished. There is not proper legislation to deal with bullying, and consequence, if any, is only brought on if a bully is proven to be directly correlated with something extreme such as suicide. Anti-bullying laws are in place in 49 states, minus Montana. California passed legislation in 2008 specifically aimed at cyberbullying. Though many of these said laws are not specific enough and don't clearly identify what constitutes different types of bullying and does not clearly identify punishments for different cases. There has not been much progress with this issue. There's a lot more we can do to help stop bullying and raise awareness. There have been so many tragedies and damage that result from physical and verbal bullying, so why is it not yet considered a crime, or at least result in severe punishment from school authorities? It seems a violation of First Amendment rights to control how children act towards one another, but when it starts to become dangerous for a child, something should be done. Some could say that children need to learn to deal with it and not take it so personally, but usually victims of bullying are so young and susceptible, and they're still growing and figuring out who they are. Being harassed and constantly put down at a young age when a child is going through development can be detrimental to their mental health. Children should not only be reprimanded by school authorities if caught being a bully, but expelled. This is the only way to set the example that it will not be tolerated by young children. It should then become a legal matter if it is violent, demeaning, and continuous. The law has a line where free speech becomes illegal, and that is when it is malicious or presents clear and present danger. Many cases of bullying involve threats, bodily harm, and acts definitely deemed malicious. So verbal bullying should in fact fall under illegal speech, and any violent acts brought on a victim should be considered a crime. Also, there are organizations people can donate to or volunteer time to, such as Pacers National Bullying Prevention Center, among others. Older kids should act as role models to the younger kids and set an example that bullying is not only wrong, but is not cool in any way. For example, at my high school, I was involved in the creation of a club called It's Cool to Be Kind, which raised awareness on this issue. We should also expand counseling programs for kids who are going through this and make sure they understand that everything will be okay, and to get parents actively involved and aware of the signs of bullying. If kids, parents, school administrators, and the law all work together, we can make an impact and make schools a safe and happy environment for everyone. So first we talked about the serious problems of bullying, then how bullying is going on today, and finally why we must stop it and ways to prevent it from happening. I'm sure everyone knows the horrible consequences that bullying can have, and the older we get, the more we understand this. I myself have seen the tragedy of bullying firsthand, having attended a funeral of one of its victims. Everyone needs to come together to make sure that severe bullying cannot be excused and will no longer fall under the rights of freedom of speech and the freedom of expression.